So let's go back through. We've got Christian in. Nice to see you, Christian. We've got Mark in. Evening, Mark. Steve's in. Nice to see you, Steve. Jamie's in. Thanks for letting me know about the audio, Jamie. Adam's in as well. Says he'll be taking notes. What's the odds are we offering for the first playing with yourself joke in the first 10 minutes? Not going to come from me, that's for sure. Not going to come from me. We've also got Neil Anderson is in. Nice to see you, Neil. I very briefly mentioned about Warhammer Fest at the weekend there, so you might have a bit more information about that. You and I know Jamie was there as well on the Sunday. We've also got the HET Fritz. I don't think we've spoken before, so welcome to the live chat for Monday. And we've got Panzer in as well. Nice to see you, Pete. And we've got DM13 in as well. So we've got a good crowd in very, very early on tonight, which is nice. Always makes it a lot easier when I've got a few people to talk to. So as I was saying, when the audio was going a bit weird there, we'll probably touch on the Warhammer Fest and all of the Age of Sigmar announcements at some point tonight, I think, because there's been quite a lot. But the main subject for tonight is about solo games. So there's a few things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. Excuse me. Drinking my Pepsi Max there, giving me a little bit of wind. There's a few things that have happened in the last couple of weeks that have got me thinking about solo wargaming. So I thought we'll get onto that tonight and we'll use that as our main subject. And I've also got some really interesting news about next Monday's live stream as well. So stay tuned, and I'll give you. I've even wrote notes tonight, guys, as well. I've taken some time to. There's certain things I want to make sure I cover, so I've even wrote some notes. I'm getting organised at this kind of stuff now. So, we've also got Mr. Spooky Thang in. He said, "Hi, all sorted. My own YouTube account now." I saw that you'd subscribed tonight, Mr. Spooky Thang. I'm not sure who you are, but thank you very much for subscribing and coming back. We've got Ghost Ace 901 says, "Hi, first time seeing your live stream. Welcome, Ghost. Really nice to have you in. Glad to have some new faces in tonight as well." And Jamie says, "It's better than talking to yourself." Well, it sometimes feels a little bit weird, like when I'm sitting doing these live streams, because I am kind of talking to myself. There's always that. There's about a 20-second delay anyway. So by the time I talk to you guys and you type your answer in, there's always a little bit of a delay on the feedback. But it's I'm getting used to it now, I think. I'm starting to get used to it. So then, like we normally do, we're probably about 1:15. We'll get on to the main subject for tonight. Give people a chance to get in. I don't know if people actually get... do people get a notification to say that I've gone live? I've never really kind of seen anybody else's live stuff, so I'm not really sure how it works. You get a... Do you get a notification to say I'm live? Do you guys just remember that it's 9 o'clock and that I'm on? I think that if you click on the bell notification next to subscribe, I think that tells you when I go live. But I'm not sure if anybody just gets it automatically. Ah, Tony, that's who it is. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, you've been in under a couple of different names over the last few weeks, I think. But yeah, nice to see you, mate. So at least I'll have to try and mentally remember that's who you are now, mate. And we've also got Todd in as well. Greetings from across the pond. He's painting up his Zombicide minis. Excellent. Zombicide and walkers and zombies. We'll be talking about that later on as well. So Pete's saying you're really professional now. Well, apart from that whole audio looping thing at the start, it's better than when I used to come on and forget to turn my microphone on. So at least, gradually over months and months, it's getting a little bit better. We've got Jamie saying he gets a notification about 30 minutes beforehand. Hans is asking what's everybody doing this evening. He's playing more Gangs of Rome. So Gangs of Rome is something that seems to be really popular at the minute. It's one of about 2 or 3 games that seems to have kind of come from not much noise to I'm hearing loads of people playing it. I would say Gaslands is probably another one that's the same. Jamie's saying then he gets another notification when he's live. Adam's saying he sets his own alarm. Ghost says he checks his subscription feed every 30 minutes for new vids. I'm a bit like that, man. I must admit, I'm on YouTube quite a bit on my phone watching other people's stuff. So not to the joy of my wife, I must say. Christian says he gets an email notification comes through and he sets an alarm. And Steve said he gets a notification, you're going live. And Ghost saying that's how he saw the live stream. Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks for the feedback, guys. I never know how it works, really. I mean, we've been doing this, not sure how long now, actually, but we've been doing a few live streams now. Certainly getting that Monday night, the regular one now for every Monday night at 9 o'clock. And what's interesting is we seem to be getting a nice kind of amount of people, but I never know whether it's the same people coming back because they just know it's every Monday, or whether people actually get notifications. So it's good to know that's how it works. So what's everybody up to tonight? Are people hobbying? Are they doing a bit of painting? I mentioned before there, Jamie, I think I saw you've been doing some Deepkin stuff, looking really, really nice. Ghost is saying that his girlfriend wants to try Gangs of Rome, and Jamie got the starter set. It was cracking value. I think Jamie picked it up when we were at Salute, if I remember right. So I guess just to start it off then, really. So Gangs of Rome, I'm assuming there's probably not a solo. There's no solo option, is there, on Gangs of Rome? Has anybody tried to play solo? You just have to play the two sides of the game. Tony saying, funny enough, just started looking over 4 Against Darkness, which is a solo dungeon crawler in book form. Not heard of that one, Tony. I'll have to dig that one out and find out a little bit more about it. There was a few people in the Facebook group today as well who just who mentioned, I've got it up on the screen here beside me as well, and they mentioned a few things. They couldn't make the live chat tonight, but there was a few things that they wanted to kind of add into the discussion. So I'll cover on that kind of stuff as well. Pete's saying that the Gangs of Rome box is great value. Starter box is the best deal out there. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that, to be fair. I think there's some excellent stuff in there. Ghost's been spraying 80 poxwalkers. Is that the start of a new army, Ghost, or is that something you've been working on for a little while? Excuse me. I really shouldn't drink Coke, should I, when I'm when I'm doing this? I've just actually come in from kind of rushed about a little bit tonight, so finished work. Sort of got the video edited that I just put up tonight, which is about 5 Kickstarters for me, and I'll come on to that one again in a second. Then put the little one to bed, had a barbecue with my wife before came on the live stream. Kind of dashed in, stinking of smoke, so dove into the shower. So I've kind of just managed to make it in time. So I think that's why I'm probably a bit gassy, to be fair. Steve's working, but at least you get this. At least you get to watch this as well, Steve. I know sometimes you can't always watch live, but I know sometimes you have to drift in and out a little bit. But it's always good to have you along for the ride, mate. Adam's sat on the settee with me on the big telly. That's quite a strange feeling, to be fair. I've got the TV that I've got in the living room's got like the smart functions on, and YouTube's one of the apps that's on there. And if I ever click on it, my little boy, he's only 18 months old. He kind of sees like one of my thumbnails on the screen, and he's pointing at the TV. He's gonna grow up thinking that his dad's some kind of TV star, I'm sure. But what a misguided kind of youth he'll have in that case. DM13 is saying no hobbying tonight, housewarming instead. Housewarming. So you've got a housewarming and you're watching this as well. Mustn't be much of a housewarming, is it? Pete saying you can play Gangs of Rome solo as it's scenario based. Didn't realise that, Pete. We'll touch on that tonight then, mate. Jamie saying can't play solo games. I've tried and tried. I even cheated fighting fantasy books. I remember doing that when I was a kid as well. I keep meaning to pick up. I know they reprinted them recently, didn't they? Well, within the last few years, fighting fantasy books, and I keep meaning to pick one of those up again. But I do remember being a kid and flicking forward. So if I go north, it's page 60. Oh shit, that's what happens. Let's see what happens if I go south. Yeah, I do remember those ones. Pete is saying I can hear his wife laughing in the background at you. I forget what your wife's called, Pete, but please say hello to our family, will you? DM13 saying he wish more war games had solo variants or modes. Yeah, and that's something what we want to kind of touch on tonight. So there's a few people in the Facebook chat have been talking about certain games they play that don't have solo variants, but they still play solo. So we'll touch on them in a bit. Christian is saying he's messed up his shoulder, so can't do much at the minute. Oh, I hope you're alright, Christian. I hope it wasn't anything too serious, mate. I hope it's just something that'll get better quickly for you. Ghost Days is saying he's got a Death Guard army. Always wanted to do sci-fi zombies, and 40k poxwalkers are cheap enough. Well, you're certainly getting a good head start with 80 poxwalkers, I think it is, isn't it? DM13 is saying Walking Dead is the only one I think of that really nails it. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We'll talk about Walking Dead a bit more as we go on. Ghost saying I'm on the TV too, playing through the PS4. It's funny actually you say that, Ghost, because when you've got a YouTube channel, you can go into the analytics behind it all, and you can see sort of which countries watch you, or which like different time zones, and it also breaks it down by what devices people are watching it on. And there's always like a small, tiny, like 1% of everybody that watches on a console, and I always wondered kind of who that was, but it's probably you. Pete saying he agrees about The Walking Dead. Yep, we'll crack on with that one. Houseworking. Or houseworking. I thought you said housewarming, mate. I thought you had a party or something like that. I was going to say, it can't be much of a party. Pete saying his wife's called Helen. Hi, Helen. I hope you're enjoying your little bit chuckle in the background there. Ghost is saying, I've been buying the new Fighting Fantasy books. They're great and affordable. Yeah, I'm sure you can buy them as like a box set of the first 10 or so. I must try and pick them up at some point. Jimmy says the door slams shut and a spike hurtles up from the floor. Your adventure ends here. Yeah, I remember them ones. I never really wanted it to end. Did you play by the rules though, Jimmy? Did you have your pencil and your rubber, and did you mark down your hit points and stuff and do all your dice rolls, or did you just cheat? I think knowing you, Jamie, I'm not really sure that you played by the rules. You just wanted a good story, didn't you? Adam says, Fighting Fantasy wise, you can get some of them as apps that don't let you cheat. Have I also seen somewhere? Is there some new board games based upon the Choose Your Own Adventure? I'm sure I've seen a picture of it somewhere. Didn't read any of the details, but I saw the box art, which was the Choose Your Own Adventure box art, sort of cover art. Ghost is saying that's cool to know about the console view. Yeah, I must admit I don't. I've got a couple of consoles, and I never really watch kind of YouTube on them or anything like that. But it's interesting. You kind of see what sort of, how much of it's on PCs, how much of it's on smart TVs, how much of it is on mobile phones, and then it even breaks mobile phones down by Android and iOS and all of that kind of stuff. It's really you can get proper geeky about it, which obviously I do. But it's just interesting to see kind of how your stuff gets viewed, because I think a lot of it I can kind of go into fine detail with kind of fancy editing and kind of putting graphics on screen. But if, say, 90% of people who watch my videos watch it on their phone, it probably gets lost. So it's quite interesting to understand that side of things. Jimmy's saying he won every fight, and thumbing the page as I flick to the next page. Yeah, never lose where you were. Tony saying, I cheated, I'll admit it, but I've got some of the new and I'm determined not to. Good for you, mate. Good for you. Adam says, Sorcery are the games that may have been board gamified. They're by Steve Jackson as well. The one I saw was definitely a Choose Your Own Adventure, but maybe it's new, maybe it's not something that's out yet or something like that. So we've got about 23, 24 people in. That's a nice little turnout tonight. So what we'll do is we'll crack on. It's about 20 past. We'll start with the main subject tonight. So solo wargaming and why am I talking about it? So a couple of weekends ago, I was out on a stag do with some of the guys from our local gaming group, and I haven't seen them, and it dawned on me I haven't seen them in so long to game with, and I realised I haven't actually been to the games club this year because I've just not managed to make the Thursday nights. Games club is on every other Thursday, and with me working away and my wife working away, I'd not managed to make it, and I realised that I wasn't really playing with the gaming group so much, so I'd started to look at some solo stuff. Then the other night, I've had the kickoff box set for Guild Ball for quite some time. I think I got it for Christmas a year gone Christmas, so almost 18 months ago. And I've painted up the two guilds that are in there, the Masons and the Brewers. And I just thought I'll try and teach myself how to play. I've never played the game before. Everything's in that kickoff set that you could need to be able to play. So I got this set out the other night, and I started to try and teach myself how to play the game. And it got me thinking, is it something that you could play solo? And then when I did, you might have seen, you might not have seen, I uploaded a video tonight, which is the 5 Kickstarters for May. And the 5 Kickstarters that were there are, one is Hellboy, one is Streets of Steel, one is Black Rose Wars, there is one called something City. I forget the name now. Let me check my notes here. It was called, he says, rustling through, Brook City, and the last one was Skull Tales Full Sail. And I forgot to mention it actually when I recorded the video. However, they are all able to play solo games, and I thought that's what I would do for this episode, if you like. I would just look at solo Kickstarters, because there's a lot of people that say that they play solo, but I want to understand, do people really play solo at home? Do they play specific solo games, or do they play sort of 2-player games but just play both sides? And one of the comments from the Facebook group today was from Carl, who does the Black Country Wargaming YouTube channel. And Carl's comment, if I can find it now, was, he said that basically he mainly plays solo, and that not that put you off, just enjoy the game. And that basically that it's what you've built, you've enjoyed sort of building it up. You might have painted your models, and if you can't get any opponents and you've got the room, just get the games out, get your stuff out, and have a game yourself. He plays games that don't have solo rules, things like Frostgrave, Dragon Rampant, Bolt Action. And the key he's found is to treat it just like you're playing against someone else. Don't cheat. That was for you, Jamie. Don't cheat, or let one of your favourites have an advantage. Sort of treat playing each side fairly, like you would if you were in control of that army or warband yourself. And he says it brings up some good results sometimes, and he's found some good tactics that have come out of solo player, which he used against opponents in the past, and they weren't expecting it. So that's quite interesting, really, just to see. I know Carl does a lot of solo stuff on his channel, and it's quite interesting, really, just to see a different point of view. I also picked up a card and dice game not long ago called Hostage Negotiator, which I should do a review on the channel for, actually. And it is only solo player. So me and my wife actually played it together and played it more like a co-op thing where we were just making the decisions together and kind of taking turns rolling dice and stuff. But it was a really interesting game, and it was interesting that it was only designed to be solo as well. So let's have a bit of a look in the chat and see what's coming around. So Adam is saying sorcery of the game, Mr. Spooky thing. So we got excuse me. We got Tony saying the iOS version of sorcery is really good too. Jamie saying sorcery with the orange, more grown-up ones. Don't think I remember them actually. They must have been maybe I just never got round to them for whatever reason. Pete saying he just downloaded Sid Meier's Pirates from GOG at £1.79. It's amazing the amount of stuff that you can pick up for like coppers and stuff now. I saw one of the Assassin's Creed games on CD keys for like 79p or something. I'd hate to think I'd grafted away and made this sort of big console or PC game, and then it was selling for 79p after all these years. Adam saying 2 on me as I'm typing on my phone. Yeah, see what I mean? Goes to saying Brook City looks fun. Yeah, I was quite. There's something about that actually. I might touch on it a little bit now, but if you want to see a bit more about it, it's in the video I uploaded tonight. But we'll touch on it when we're talking about solo games. Adam saying he's reconnected with an old friend this week and now playing Risk 2210 on Sunday. So needs solo plus games now. That's good. Anything that you can play solo, but then also play sort of with somebody else, especially sort of co-op games. They're always they're kind of worth an investment, really, especially if you don't get to see groups very often. Todd saying Brook City looks interesting. He saw the post. DM13 saying he's buying a new board game. Solo mode is essential. That's kind of where I came from today with that Kickstarter one, really, where things I've backed recently, things like Hellboy. a lot of that was around the fact that it's got a solo mode, and it's something I'm looking for more and more now. He also says Hostage Negotiator is excellent. I really enjoyed it. The first time I played it, I think I played it slightly wrong. And you know how basically you have your hand of negotiation cards, and as you play them, they basically go back into the pile, don't they? And you have to get your chat round so that you got enough conversation points to buy some the next round. I think I just kept taking the 0 cost ones back at every turn, and I think I was playing it wrong the first time, so I found it quite easy. But since I've gone back and played it the correct way, it is quite tough. Todd is saying the solo player really helps them understand the rules. Yeah, even if it is a 2-player game, I tend to try and play through once myself, even just on my own, almost to learn the rules, because I know when I'm playing with family, with my wife or my older boys, they don't like to kind of play that first game through where we're all learning the rules together. They like to have somebody to kind of coach them through it a little bit. Ghost is saying, thing that puts you off playing games like bolt action solo is the setup time. I'd much prefer Walking Dead solo or Ascenorium game. I think that's what I said. Game from GW a few years ago. Yeah, there is that, mind. I mean, it's like sort of setting up a full table of terrain and stuff. It's a bit of a commitment, and unless you've got the space to be able to kind of leave it out and maybe play the game over a couple of days or something. But yeah, it's not ideal really. DM13 saying the hospital scenario is emotional to say the least. Oh, I haven't got to that one yet. Don't spoil it. I haven't got that far yet. I'm keeping a few of the scenarios back because I know you can buy expansions and stuff, but it's ideal. Like if my wife's away with work on an evening and stuff like that. I kind of, rather than sort of, I've been playing a bit of League of Legends recently after not playing for a few years. But it's quite nice to play a bit of a solo board game as well. Christian is saying he plays Zombicide and Labyrinth board game solo. Helps to learn the rules, yeah, as we mentioned. Is the Labyrinth game, does it have a solo mission, or are you just playing like a two-player version solo? It's not a game I know a lot about the rules. Steve is saying never really play solo unless it's working out rules. Solo rules do help you learn the core rules before explaining to a group. Yeah, it's always helpful if somebody understands how to play it, doesn't it? Ghost saying co-ops are the best thing for solo. Yeah, definitely. Any game where you can kind of work together as a team and play the game, or you can just play it sort of as a few characters yourself, it works great. Peter Higgins, nice to see you, Peter. Didn't see you sneak in there. Hope you're very well. He's saying he played the original Dead Zone game solo when Mantic released the AI deck to play against. I'm hoping they update the deck for the new rules. Yeah, I remember that as well. I had the original Dead Zone and the second edition as well. And I don't think I ever actually played the AI deck, but I did. I think I knew there was a version of it. Mark is saying he plays Zombicide solo and co-op. Also plays X-Wing, the first version solo with the use of the app, and a fan-based set of rules called Heroes of the Aturi Cluster. I remember you telling me about that, Mark, when we were at Salute, and I must admit I forgot to follow that up, because what I might actually try and do is have a little kind of solo game of that myself as well, because I've still got quite a bit of X-Wing stuff. I'm keen to kind of get back into it again at some point, but I hope it doesn't become an arms race like it did before. And we've got Tony saying this War of Mine board game is brutal solo. It works really well solo and actually isn't as good with more players. That's quite an interesting point, really. I wonder if there obviously is, but I wonder if there's more games that actually work better just as a solo experience rather than with multiple players. I mean, I remember playing Hero Quest as a kid and playing that on my own because it was the kind of game where, I mean, back in the day, it was exceptionally geeky. I mean, kind of wizards and warriors and dwarfs and things. It was of a time when basically that, you know, you weren't the cool kids kind of thing, if you like. And it wasn't something my sister wanted to play with me when I was a kid. It wasn't something kind of like my parents really wanted to play. So I remember playing quite a bit of that solo myself as well. Christian is saying Labyrinth, just a game, but you control all 4 characters. Peter says XCOM board game is brutal, played solo too. playing with the app, it doesn't get any easier with more players. Adam's saying, I guess you could solo play a Pandemic with 4 characters. Peter's saying he plays Mars Attacks solo as well. I've got the Mars Attacks game actually, and I haven't played it in such a long time because I think I actually took the terrain out of it to start using for Walking Dead. I should really get back and have a game of that because that is actually really good. I remember picking that up at a Mantic Open Day that I went down to with my son, actually with my 2 sons, and we stayed at a hotel in the night time. And I remember sitting in the hotel bar, we'd had a bite to eat. I had a pint, the kids had a Coke kind of thing. And we sat in the corner of the hotel bar and sat and played, when we played Mars Attacks. It actually is a really good game. And Adam says, playing co-ops on your own means less arguing. It depends, you can always argue with yourself, to be fair. So, DM13 is saying, I saw a flowchart for Terminator Genesis miniatures game that controlled the Terminators, so you can play that solo as well as the humans versus the machines. I'm sure it was an official thing from the publisher. There's quite a lot of games that seem to have a solo sort of mission tagged on the end of it, or somebody developed some rules for it. So there's definitely, on Board Game Geek, if you're ever looking to see if there's a solo version or if there's any way you can tweak the rules, Board Game Geek has a big community of solo gamers. And they do a lot of stuff for rules for games to enable that to happen. So I think, what was the game I was looking at? So yeah, I played Go Chosen. I did a video of it on the channel quite some time ago. And there was rules on Board Game Geek that allowed you to play Go Chosen as a solo game as well. I quite enjoy playing Gears of War board game. That's pretty good solo. But as has also been mentioned in the chat here, I have to say I honestly think that The Walking Dead by Mantic is definitely one of the best examples of a game that can be played 1v1, it can be played co-op, or it can be played as a solo experience as well. And for me, there's no difference in the enjoyment of the game between playing it solo or playing it multiplayer. And as somebody mentioned before, the setup time, it takes no time at all. I love the way the walkers are just they're very much, their kind of AI is very obvious. They would always move towards noise. They would always move towards the nearest person. It doesn't feel forced just to enable the game to work, if you like. But what I will do is I won't touch too much on The Walking Dead tonight. And the reason for that is next Monday's live stream is going to be a Walking Dead special. And what I want to do is I want to talk about sort of all the different expansions that are out now, talk about all of the different terrain options that we've got, both from Mantic directly and from some third-party companies as well, because there's so much good stuff out there, not least of all the foreground shopping mall, which I'm sure everybody's seen if you're interested in the game. We'll talk about kind of what the future holds, because there's been, I think they're probably confirmed rumours, I would say now, that there is a skirmish game version of The Walking Dead coming. So if you've bought all the different expansions, there's a skirmish version of the game coming. And an extra special thing for next Monday is I've very kindly been given, or I will have when it comes in the post. Let me just switch across to it. So Mantic have very kindly given me one of these to give away on the live stream show next Monday. So it is the event exclusive set for 2018. So here we have Dale. We have Rick here as well, looking slightly worse for wear, and we also have, I think it's Scott Moon. I think is the other guy. Just looking out to see if there's a name. Pretty sure he's called Scott Moon. So next week on the live stream, and it'll only be available for people that are in the live stream at the time when the competition is on. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it yet. Whether we're going to do something for the best kind of chat for the night, or whether we just do a random draw. I'll work that out between now and next week. But don't forget to come and tune in next Monday's live stream for the Walking Dead special, when you can win one of those event-exclusive boosters. So, let's have a little chat and let's see a little bit more about what's happening here. So, Todd is saying he plays Space Hulk solo. I need to try that, to be honest. I do have Space Hulk. I bought it off a guy at my gaming club, and I've played a couple of games of it. But I wouldn't mind giving that one another try as well. Ghost is saying it sounds cool for Terminator. I bought the game for the girlfriend's birthday. I think I've said it tends to be quite reasonably priced, I think, as well, doesn't it, the Terminator game? It's quite often on sale, I think. So if that's something we can play solo, it's probably not a bad little game to pick up. Arturo Agent Gamer, nice to see you, my friend. Welcome into the chat tonight. Says he plays a number of games solo, including AOS, Song of Blades and Heroes, and Space Hulk. Just got Star Saga, which has a good, simple solo mode. Star Saga, again, is another game where I've heard really good things about the solo expansion for it, or the solo sort of play for it, I should say. DM13 is saying Space Hulk Death Angel, the card game, is brilliant. Didn't even realise there was a Space Hulk card game. Something I'll have to check out sometime. Todd saying Board Game Geek is an excellent resource for homebrewed rules. And yes, The Walking Dead is excellent. I use some of those rules in his Zombicide games. And Todd is saying he can't wait for next week's show. Yeah, so the prize for next week's show, the kind of 2018 booster, you can only buy it if you attend a show where Mantic are attending. And any weekend there is a show on that Mantic are attending, they put it up for sale on their website as well. So this will be it's not something you can kind of get hold of easily, I would say. I'll ship it to anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter who wins it. So yeah, make sure you share it with your friends. Let everybody know. Come in and try and win that next week. Adam saying he has a one Walking Dead question. Is it based off the comic books or the series? If it's the series, he's not fussed, but the comic version would allow a bit more imagination. It is the comic books, Adam. It's based upon the original Walking Dead graphic novels. There is a board game that is based on the TV show called Walking Dead No Sanctuary, I think it's called. I've not played it, but I've not heard great things about it, to be honest. But yeah, it's based on the comic books, so it follows the expansions follow the comic book story quite closely, and the characters are based upon those in the comic books. Mark saying, yeah, it's based on the comics. Todd saying based off the comics as well. I should read a bit faster, shouldn't I? And DM13 is saying that there's some paint jobs out there for black and white models to replicate the comics. Some people have done some really, really good versions of it as well, even down to the fact that they've photocopied the playing mats as well, so they've got black and white versions of the playing mats. Ghost is saying he's not played it solo yet, but a game from Osprey, The Men Who Would Be Kings, is about colonial battles like Zulu, and the author put solo rules in called Playing Against Mr. Babbage. I don't think I've actually played an Osprey game, actually. I know they did the rules for... Is it Osprey Publishing that do the rules for Bolt Action, I think, isn't it? Or they certainly print the books anyway. And they certainly print the book for Gaslands as well, but I've not played it yet, actually. Gary Hollandale is in as well. Nice to see you, Gary. Thanks for joining us tonight. He said, Alien vs. Predator The Hunt Begins is a great solo game. Again, that's another game that seems to always be at a good price. Might be something else to pick up to play solo as well. AGT Fritz says, do you need more than the core set to get a good experience with Walking Dead? Or are there some expansions that you really must have when you buy it? What I would say is there's definitely enough in the core set to be able to enjoy the game. It doesn't take anything away from the experience. I think if you've got a little bit more money to spend, there is a collector's edition, which basically has a lot more stuff inside it. It has some terrain in there. It has a gaming mat. I think it's got more miniatures in there as well. It might have like one of the expansions inside it. Excuse me. And that will certainly add to your games. But what I would say is that the expansions are excellent, but they're not sort of, you don't need them to definitely play. You'll want to get them later on as you want some different survivors to play with. And you might want some extra walkers and things, but it's not a case of it's half a game. The real game is in the core set. The expansions build on the core set a little bit. So for example, I think in the first expansion there's rules for like Molotov cocktails and for fire that aren't in the core set. So it's that kind of expansion. But no, the core set is definitely good value, and you'll definitely have a good game with it. Todd is saying no Sanctuary sucks. I've heard that a couple of times, Todd, and I've not played the game. And to be honest, what I did read today while I was making that Kickstarter video, sorry, I making it at the weekend when I was uploading it today, is that, what was that game called again? Something City. Brook City is written by the same twins that made the No Sanctuary game, and that's the only thing that's making me think, oh, because I have heard bad things. DM13's really interested in the Aliens vs Predator game. Don't know much about it. He agrees as well. Walking Dead core set is really solid. Jamie saying we play the Men Who Would Be Kings every year on the anniversary of Rourke's Drift. There you go, a little bit of a history buff there. Ghost Ace is saying Bolt Action, Gaslands, Frostgrave, Dragon Rampant, all very good games. Recommend because blue wargame books they do are about a tenner. I keep hearing about Dragon Rampant. Somebody told me about it. When was it? I think it was Carl, actually, from the Facebook group. It was him that mentioned it. But I'd never heard of it until he mentioned it. Is it a fantasy game? Is it? It sounds like it should be fantasy, something along the lines of Frostgrave, rather. Adam says Osprey are proper historical books publisher. They use them in schools. I didn't realise that. I only know them from seeing them at like war game shows and stuff, and they always look like they make a lot of historical books. But I assumed they were kind of like World War II books, if you like, kind of aimed at the very I want to say geeky there, like, but aimed at the very historical collector. Jimmy saying Mr. Barrage is brutal. He's got about 300 Zulus built and painted in the shop. Do you know what it is? Any game looks amazing when you have that many models all painted up, don't they? Ghost is saying, I'm planning on playing Rogue's Drift Anniversary at my club too, but need to paint some Zulus. Whereabouts are you based, Ghost? Get yourself over to Middlesbrough and go and have a game with Jamie. We've got Nurglin in. It says, your team. Nice to see you, Nurglin. I think the first time we've been in. Welcome to the chat tonight. We've got a nice little... we've got quite a few in tonight, actually. I wonder if we've just hit a good night. There you go. Todd is saying, oh, well, maybe I'll hold off on Brook City then. I would definitely recommend watching a couple of the playthroughs because it seemed really interesting. But then when I watched the playthrough yesterday and I read the little bit at the bottom, I didn't realise that. So the two twins who wrote the game and made the game used to work for Fantasy Flight, and they've worked on X-Wing. They worked on what was the other one? We worked on Descent. They worked on Imperial Assault. So they've definitely got a background in kind of working on big games. Maybe No Sanctuary was just maybe the license held them back. I don't know. It's worth watching a couple of the playthroughs though, just to be sure. Jamie saying Dragon Rampant is the fantasy rules of Lion Rampart. It's good, but the aviation mechanic is frustration. Ah, okay. So that somebody had told me. I'm sure it was. Is it like a more simple version of AOS or a more simple version of kind of Kings of War or something like that? I think that's what somebody was telling me about it. Ghost saying, yeah, Lion Rampant is medieval and Dragon Rampant is the same rules with dragons and magic. We've got Mick James in tonight as well. Nice to see you, Mick. How are you doing, my friend? He's saying Osprey were a war gamer's dream, uniform perfection. Nurglin is saying, yep, first he's managed to catch. Well, hopefully it'll not be the last, Nurglin. Nice to see you. Ghost is saying, club is at Rotherham in South Yorkshire. Good that people have similar game ideas. South Yorkshire's not too far away from Middlesbrough in North Yorkshire then. I'm sure you'll be able to get up there one day for a game of Zulus. Jimmy's saying activation. Sorry, yeah, you were saying it's good, but the activation mechanic is frustration. So, excuse me. So Mick is saying, a question: how many of the games behind me have I played solo? This is all just a big swizz, Mick. This is just a green screen behind me. I don't actually own any. Well, I own some of these games, but these are not mine. So I'm going to kind of I can completely go behind the curtain now. Let's have a look and let's see if we can. If I do this instead. There. Sorry, mate. They're not really my games, unfortunately. They're just there to look nice, unfortunately. They're just there for a nice picture on the stream. I wish I had all these games. If I had all of these games, I wouldn't have time to do live streams, that's for sure. I'll be sitting playing them. But I think there's a few on there that I wouldn't mind picking up. So there's some Imperial Assault at the bottom down here. I wouldn't mind playing the Imperial Assault games, especially with the apps. That's what we'll come on to now. So there's Fantasy Flight do quite a bit of they do quite a few games now where they've done companion apps to allow you to play solo. So they've got one for Descent, they've got one for Imperial Assault, they've got Mansions of Madness. Has anybody used those apps, and what do you think of them? Because I've been considering picking up Imperial Assault recently. It's not the cheapest of games, to be fair, and I heard it takes quite a while to play it as well. So I downloaded the app because the app's free. So I thought I'd download the app and have a look at it and see how it looks. And the app actually looks really good. So has anybody used those apps? Has anybody used those apps, and what do you think of them? Ghost Days is saying it would be cool. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to make a trip up to North Yorkshire at some point. Jamie is saying the horror. I'm not. I hope that's because I said that I might not be able to make Monday nights. Mick saying didn't think so. Saw the shelf. Thought bloody hell, you've done well. No, mate. Honestly, it's yeah. It looks a lot more glamorous on my screen than it does when I look behind me. That's for sure. Nurglen is saying, would anyone be interested in narrative bat reps, a story told with miniatures rather than an actual battle played with dice? I've seen a few people doing battle reports who've been trying to focus on the story rather than actually focusing on the dice rolls. Me personally, I don't watch a lot of battle reports, if I'm honest, but I probably would watch them if there was a story rather than just watching somebody rolling dice and moving the miniatures. I find playing games much more interesting than watching on screen, but I do like a narrative story. So see what other people say, Nurglen. Mick is saying 5 Tribes is superb. Is that one of the ones on the shelf here somewhere? Is it? That is here? I think looking at the screen. Yeah. There is one on that I think I noticed on here somewhere. Oh, it must be on the bit that's cut off somewhere. But it was something Jamie mentioned a couple of weeks ago, which was Forbidden Island. And I've watched a couple of playthroughs of that, and I intend to pick that up. But I think there is an iPad app. So I think I'm going to pick it up on the iPad actually, so we can take it on holiday and not worry about. We can kind of play it on the plane and stuff like that. Adam is saying that's a good chroma key job. Then couldn't tell. It's actually not too bad. I mean, I've got a couple of lights here in front of me. I've got blinds closed at the back of my room, and I've got the lights turned off in the room, so it seems to kind of light quite well behind me. It seems to be working all right. So I'm quite happy with the way the setup is at the minute. But yeah, it looks a lot more glamorous on screen than it is in reality, that's for sure. Mixie and Imperial Assault app is great, works really well solo. I kind of played through the app a little bit just to kind of see how it worked, not really understanding how the game works. And it seemed quite intuitive. It seemed pretty good. Todd saying the magic of video. Yeah, even on my budget, you can have special effects. Tony is saying apps work really well for Mansions of Madness and Imperial Assault. DM13 is saying there's a third-party app for X-Wing, although I found it a little confusing. Yeah, I think Mark mentioned the app earlier on as well. I'd heard it was there's I think basically you put in what your opponent's ship is, and you put in what your movement was, and that gives you a random movement for your opponent's ship, something like that. I had seen it, but I've never used it yet. Jamie saying not used the app, but the game is cool. Ghost Ace says he loves narratives as well. So there you go, Nurglen. A bit of feedback about narrative, and I can see DM13 there as well as seeing narrative bat reps sound great too. We've got Hal Martins come in. Good day to you as well, Hal. It says he came in late. Hope my day is well. My day's been very good, thanks, mate. I hope yours has been too. Mick is, let's go. It's jumping so fast now. Jimmy is saying we've got a majority of those at the shop, at least a shelf of them. Yeah, what I'll have to do sometime is I'll have to kind of get some pictures of what games I have got and show you my shelves. I've got some shelves over there, and I've got some shelves over to the side there as well. But mine are mainly kind of miniatures games rather than a lot of board games. I'm just starting to really get into board games now, I think. Mickey saying Forbidden Island and Desert, got them both great cooperative games and good price. Yeah, I think they were less than £20. I think when I looked at them, there was something like about £17, £18, which is perfect for something that you kind of can just kind of play on the go. Tony is DM13 saying plays solo board games a lot digitally, removes the setup and teardown times. Yeah, if there's any games that you play sort of digital versions of board games, if you've got any of those recommendations, feel free to drop them in the chat as well. Because my wife actually quite enjoys playing board games. And we're looking to take a few on holiday with us because we're away for a couple of weeks at the end of June with our young son. And there'll be evenings when we're kind of sort of stuck in the hotel when he's asleep. It'd be nice to maybe have a couple of board games to be able to play and stuff. But any recommendations that we can play either on an iPad or any games that are relatively small we can take with us. I know Mark recommended something to me which was called Hive. And I've been looking to pick that up as well, the Pocket Edition. So that's something that you can maybe check out as well. Tony is saying Descent Journeys into Darkness, which is a dungeon crawler that came before Imperial Assault, has an app to replace the Overlord player, and it's superb. Has anybody played both? Because I've heard that the Imperial Assault is like a better version of Descent. Yes, it's got the Star Wars skin on, but they fixed a couple of the kind of clunky rules. It'd be just interesting to know. Ghost is saying, good thing about Solo is staying on topic, is Solo to me is more than just a game. I love the stories, like an experience like Prelude to Woodbury for Walking Dead. Yeah, I must admit, if it's just sitting on my own rolling dice, that can become a little bit tedious. I quite like some kind of narrative, thematic story in there as well, just to kind of keep it going. Nurglin is asking what types of stories would you be keen on watching? Anything from fantasy, sci-fi, or maybe a specific miniature range? Jamie saying best game on the shelf is easily Sheriff of Nottingham. I nearly got banned playing that the other day. I don't think I've ever heard of Sheriff of Nottingham, and I want to know why you got banned playing it. Did you get yourself into a little bit of a confrontation over it? Did you, Jamie? Mick is saying the same here. DM13, some great digital board games now. Mark is saying X-Wing app. The X-Wing app is for use with HOTAC campaign. Makes sense when you read the solo rules. Maybe that's what I've missed. I only saw the app on its own, Mark. Steve is saying, I hate to tell the boys about the app for Descent into Darkness. Or I have to tell the boys. That he said he'd hate to there. Nurglin is saying, the best thing about Hero Quest is the board. Never. The best thing about Hero Quest is the miniatures. Jamie said he's playing Warhammer Quest 2 on iOS right now. There's a few of the guys in my local gaming group. We've got a WhatsApp chat, and they've been talking about that recently, saying that the game's pretty good, actually. I never played the first one, but I've heard the second one's pretty good. Adam says, going back to solo games, Karma Sutra playing cards aren't that great. There you go, Jamie. We didn't quite get it in the first 10 minutes, but we got it in the first hour. The first comment about playing solo. Mick is saying digital board games that he has. He's got Jaipur. It's 2-player only, very playable. He's got Splendor plus some new expansions as well. Christian's mentioned about Talisman on the iPad. Boss Monster is quite small to travel with. I'll make a note of that one as well. Jamie, Mark is saying Jamie loves Sheriff, such a great game. Jimmy says, yeah, it's slicker than Descent, so that's Imperial Assault. He's got both for games to travel with. The tiny epic games are cool. I think I also might pick up as well, Jamie. I think you've been playing one recently. Maybe one or two of those the Exit Escape Room games as well. Because I think basically once you've played them, you basically pretty much have to just ditch them, I think, don't you? So it's something I could take and play and then not worry about bringing back as well. Ghost is saying to Nurglin that he loves things like Necromunda Inquisitor style games, but generic fantasy would be cool, harking back to the days of Hero Quest. I know I keep every now and again I keep thinking I'm going to paint up all my Hero Quest miniatures and have a little game of it. Neil is saying he can't play computer games, they're too fast and make me seasick. Tell you what, Neil, you definitely don't want to try the VR headsets then in that case. I'm not too bad with them, but my wife gets really bad kind of motion sickness with them. I've got the PlayStation VR headset, and we sometimes play them together. So there's a few puzzle games. There's a puzzle game where you can you basically have to defuse a bomb, and one of you has the headset on, and you can see the bomb, and you're trying to defuse it, and the other player has either on your phone or on the screen has the manual on how to defuse the bomb. So we sometimes play that together on a night time as well. So for any games where it's moving quite fast, my wife gets really bad motion sick with it. Where have we got now? God, it is moving fast tonight. Loads in the chat. We've got Mickey saying loads of Waterdeep, D&D, worker placement games. Steve Smallworld saying he can't play Sheriff with his wife. She can read me like a book. It definitely must be a little bit of a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Bit like a poker face to it, then, is it? Ghost is saying, have you tried Warhammer Quest Silver Tower solo? I haven't actually. I've got Warhammer Quest Silver Tower. I've only ever played it once with my wife, actually. She got bored to hell about halfway through the first mission, but I keep meaning to go back and... Oh, I shouldn't be drinking Coke. I should have water tonight. I keep meaning to go back and play it again because I really enjoyed it. It was right up my street. It wasn't the game just takes too long. My wife much prefers like sort of shorter games. Todd is saying, there's an app for Imperial Assault? There is, and basically, like in Descent, where somebody has to play the Overlord or the Imperials, the app basically takes over, and you basically tell the app where you're moving your miniatures, and then the app tells you where to move your opponent. So it means that you can play it as a solo game, and by all accounts, everyone seems to rave about just how good the apps work. DM13 is saying to Nurglin that he's a board gamer at heart, always on the threshold of getting into war games, and AOS seems the most likely I'd play or watch. I think I'm kind of starting to drift a little bit the other way now, so I think things like The Walking Dead and things like Silver Tower still scratch my miniatures itch, but I'm starting to find more and more. I'm finding sort of board games quite interesting. So I think from a channel perspective, you'll definitely see a real mix of board games and miniature games in the future here as well. Adam is saying his partner's gone upstairs, so he's now got more free reign. That's it now. I'm sorry I've scared your partner away, Adam. I hope it wasn't anything I've said. DM13 is saying Onirim is a beautiful solo game that's available digitally as well. Nurglin saying to Ghost Ace, Necromunda will be great, especially with the scenery. He's doing a Warhammer Quest project at the minute and plans on doing some fun videos with the heroes battling down the dungeon. Sounds really good, Nurglin. Make sure that you head across to my Facebook group. If you're not already a member there, come and join up. And when you've got your videos made, make sure you come and tell us so we can all come and see them as well. Jamie saying, basically in Sheriff, you have to bribe the Sheriff to get your goods to market. I offered a bribe that was more blackmail than a bribe. Jamie saying he just bought Warhammer Quest Shadows over Hammerhall. Silver Tower was a bit easy. I think Shadows over Hammerhall, I'm pretty sure you can't play that solo, can you? You need to have a like a DM for that, I think. Nurglin is saying he'd love to make a 3D Hero Quest board one day, but I have so many projects on. Maybe you can mix it with a Warhammer Quest project. Yeah, get some kind of crossover going. That'll be good. Jimmy saying can't recommend the Exit games highly enough. James Hewitt was spot on with those. Yeah, I've seen them, and it's always, I think it's one of those things where I always think, do I really want to spend money on a game that I can only play once? But then if you think you get probably an hour or two's play out of it, they're not very expensive. They're like 11 or 12 quid. You know, what the price of a takeaway or something like that. I suppose not bad for a night's gaming, is it really? Nurglin is saying mix Silver Tower with original Warhammer Quest. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. We've got Colin. Nice to see you, Col. Says it's nice to jump in here on one of his favourite games, Dragon Rampant, being discussed. Yeah, I was just chatting about the comment that you left in the Facebook group earlier on today. I kind of read through that as well when we first started the chat earlier on. So it kind of kicked off our chat tonight. So thanks for that, Col. Mick saying Sheriff of Nottingham's a bluffing game. Each player takes a turn being the sheriff. Each one tries to smuggle goods past him in a hidden bag. I would guess that's not a good solo game then, unless you want to try and bluff yourself. Nurglin is saying he's found people drifting more and more towards skirmish type games rather than large battles. Yeah, I think you're definitely seeing that quite a lot now. People just generally, I think, kind of have less time on their hands when it comes to playing a game. I mean, I think the days of going to a gaming group and spending 4 or 5 hours playing a game are probably a real luxury these days. Most people have probably got an hour or two at the best. Carl saying he loves Dragon Rampant activation system. Roll 2 dice for an action fail, and it's your turn over. Makes for some very tense gameplay, especially in 4 to 6 player games. I will have to find out a bit more about this because I've heard you mention it a couple of times now, Carl. Mick saying sheriff chooses to look or pass coins. If you get them passed, pay the sheriff if he catches you. Best interaction in any board game. Is it? I guess it's one of them games that probably plays better with more people, is it? Rather than obviously just a couple of people. DM13 is saying Pandemic, Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, Patchwork all have great digital versions. I didn't realise there was a digital version of Pandemic. It's a game I keep sort of mentioning to my wife to play because I want to try and play through the original Pandemic and then maybe at some point go across to Pandemic Legacies. So I might actually try the digital version of that. Todd saying that's very cool. Might make it get into Imperial Assault. I have some minis that I painted just for kicks. Yeah, I've been thinking about picking it up, and myself, Todd. It's not the cheapest of board games. I think list price it's about £90 in the UK. You can pick it up for probably about £75, I think, with discount. But it's still a big chunk of money to spend on a board game, especially if you're just going to play it solo as well. Tony's saying that he thinks board gaming and wargaming miniatures games are crossing over quite a bit lately anyway. Yeah, I see that as well. I mean, there's a real grey area now. I think board games used to be board games with tokens and kind of counters, and miniature games were very kind of complex rules on big battles, on big sort of playing areas. And I think in the middle, as games have come down towards skirmish games, and the board games have started to kind of replace the tokens with miniatures, and the quality of the miniatures has got better. We definitely have this kind of middle ground now that seems to be sort of crossing over between the two. Jamie says the best thing about Hero Quest is Hero Quest. That video just never gets old, does it? Tony's saying so makes sense to look at both. Yep, definitely. DM13 saying fine substitute when you're out on holiday, but nothing beats the tactile experience of playing a proper game. Yeah, definitely. I would agree that there is just something about the visual appeal of it and actually physically rolling dice and picking up tokens and stuff. I completely agree with that. Mick is saying San Juan is a great card version of Puerto Rico. It's his favourite digital board game. I've heard about Puerto Rico, but never played that one either. I've definitely got a lot of catching up to do when it comes to board games. DM13 saying he's played Exit the Cabin was a great experience of a 12 quid beta DVD for a night of group entertainment. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking really. I know it's kind of like I mentioned before, I know you kind of only play them through once, but you're right, for that kind of price, it's like the price of a takeaway, or it's the price of a couple of bottles of wine or something like that, really, isn't it? It's not a fortune, if you like. Mick James saying definitely not solo. No, I don't think you'll play those ones solo, can you? DM13 is saying everyone at his local group wants to play 2,000 points of 40k. I barely own 75 points of models. Skirmish for life. That is me down to a T as well. There's no appeal to me personally just playing a game with grey plastic. So it takes me a long time to get a painted army. And those games of 2,000 points they're way out of reach for me, I think, for that reason. And I think that's what, for some reason, board game pieces, I don't feel the need to have them fully painted. I like to paint them, but I feel I can play the game without them being painted. Where when it comes to kind of sort of 40k Age of Sigmar and stuff, it wouldn't even occur to me to play them unpainted. Arturo is saying back in the 70s and 80s, Avalon Hill produced a wide range of board games. Quite a few had solo modes. You can still get them on eBay, and most of them were historical war games. Avalon Hill are not around now, are they? I think they go bust, or somebody bought them out or something, didn't they? But the historical stuff, I'll be honest, has never really attracted me. I've never really been much of a history buff, if I'm honest. It needs to kind of, for me, there's more like sort of theme in other stuff, I think. Mick says, yep, really brings people out of their shells really brings people out of their shells, sorry, if you have the right group. And that's good if you've got a good group of people together. Steve is saying Pandemic Legacy is a great way on Season 2. I've heard really good stuff, so you might be able to tell me this one then, Steve. Is it worth playing Pandemic, the normal game, first? Or would you advise just diving straight in and picking up one of the Pandemic Legacy seasons? Mick is saying Scythe, perfect example of a crossover as well. Yeah, Scythe gets some great reviews as well. Adam says local shop wise, it annoys me. £4 to play on their boards with fair terrain, but also £4 to play a skirmish or board game that I've brought myself. That's a bit of a shame, Adam. Not everywhere does pricing like that. I know that Element Games in the UK over in the Northwest, I think they charge, off the top of my head, something like £4 for a 6x4 table, but it's only, I think it's £2 for a 3x4 table. So it's like half the size if you like, you know, so you can play like, say, 2 games of Guild Ball or something like that. You pay half the price of the table. And I've got a feeling as well, if you're playing board games, it's even cheaper. It might be like a quid or something like that. Oh, Steve saying Scythe, great quality game. Neil saying solo play helps scratch the itch, but always better with others. And I think if there's one thing we'll take out of this tonight, I think being able to play a game solo is better than not playing at all. However, given the choice, definitely the social interaction and the playing the game with somebody else is definitely what you'd want to do. Jamie saying shops charging for tables is outrageous. Now that I do agree with. I'm really surprised more places don't just get people through the door. For the sake of making 2 or 3 quid, you know, you'd rather that somebody came in, played for free, maybe picked some stuff up while they're there, bought themselves a can of pop or a cup of coffee. Just goodwill and getting people through your shop door. That's what it should be about. Completely agree with that. Ghost says he glitched out there, but he's back now. Welcome back, buddy. Jimmy saying he played Exit the Pharaoh's Tomb with 5 players with the app. Do you have to have the app, Jamie, or does the app just have a timer or something like that? Nurglin saying he painted a 2,000 point undead army for Dead December last year. It was grueling. Yeah, it always feels like hard work to me as well if I'm trying to paint something of that size. Adam is saying Jamie don't mind paying, but should be tiered. Yeah, you're right. It shouldn't be the same price, but to be fair, you should pay to hire mats or maybe hire scenery or something like that. I agree with that, but not to play your own games that you're bringing with you. Jamie saying it was superb fun. Recommend to everyone. That's the Exit Games. Mick saying his local shop charges for tables. Would love to open a board game cafe. Yeah, me too, Mick. I think it's one of those kind of like you see some places doing it really badly, and you think, "Oh, I know better. I know I could make a go of this," but such a big risk in this day and age, isn't it? We've got Jamie is saying there's no charges at his hobby centre. So Jamie's at Asgard War Games up in Middlesbrough or down in Middlesbrough, depending upon where you are in the world. And they definitely, I've been there a couple of times now, and great gaming place, no charge for the tables. Just shows that it is possible, really, to build a community and get people coming in and playing. They buy their stuff from the shop, then, don't they? And at the end of the day, that 2 or 3 quid they've paid for a table is irrelevant at that point. DM13 is saying Mick, just take the game to a pub. No need to pay for a table there. Do many people play it at the local pubs? It's something that's kind of, I always like the idea of playing in a pub, but I wonder sort of, do you get any grief? Is there any kind of, is it still classed as a little bit too geeky now for pubs? Jimmy's saying the game over Andy's left shoulder. Time Stories is superb. I'm looking to see where it is now. It's too small on my screen. Is this the one you were telling me about, Jimmy? Is it Time Story? Oh, just whoop. just not my microphone. It's that one down there, isn't it? The white boxes. I remember you telling me about it now. That's another game I think you can only play once as well, isn't it? But it's quite a bit more expensive. Steve is saying you can play the Legacy Start game without using the Legacy deck. The 2 seasons are very different games. I'll have to have a look into those ones then, mate. Mick saying, totally agree. My games club is in a pub. See, now that's utopia, isn't it? That's the promised land right there. Nurglin says, Andy, can you try out weird tactics in solo player without the threat of looking like a maniac at your local store? My local store, the one nearest to me, is Games Workshop, so you can only play Games Workshop games there. My local gaming group is in a church hall, and the guys there literally play anything from really random homemade games right through to kind of Age of Sigmar, Warhammer 40k, X-Wing, that kind of thing. And I know Jamie's store and Jamie's gaming group down at Asgard, they played many different games as well, so pretty sure you could try out any weird tactics if you wanted to there. DM13 is saying can get a no fee of 40k or Thunder and Blood AOS game on most pub tables. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about sort of 3x3 and 4x4 games, definitely. Adam says pubs near me are full of hipsters and students. No room to whip out Shadespire. There's a pub near me does it once a month, has a board gaming night. Which is kind of full of students and hipsters, to be honest, who all find board games very cool these days, I think. Ghost is saying, that's why I love analog gaming rather than PC. Prefer to look my opponent in the eye. I mean, make new friends and socialise. That's it, just that kind of like death stare across the table. Jimmy's saying, the app is just a timer with sounds for the game. Or a little bit of atmosphere. That's a nice one. Ghost is saying his club's above a pub as well. Nurglin saying the local pub is always packed with people eating, so that's not really a possibility here in Suffolk. Neil saying certain games I aspire to play in special places. For example, Escape from Colditz in Colditz was mint. Now that is interesting. I can imagine playing certain games like that. Can you imagine playing Sherlock Holmes Consultant Detective down in Baker Street? That might be quite nice. Neil Nurglin is saying Heart of Darkness in Africa as well. Jamie says that he's nodding. You can't see me nodding. I can feel you. I can feel the force of your nod, Jamie. I can feel the force. Aturo saying one of the best things about solo player is you can favour the good guys. I hate to see Stormcast lose. It also lends itself to narrative player. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier on as well, so somebody else in the group today, Robbie Last, said, is there any chance Nordic Weasel Games will get a mention? They do some really good solo game rules for wargaming. Now, it wasn't something I'd heard about, so I thought I'd bring it up and see if you guys have played it. So, let me just go back a screen. So these guys, these Nordic war games, you do these sort of PDF rule sets, I guess, that you can download, and they've got a sort of a sci-fi thing called 5 Parsecs. They do some other stuff as well, I think, although I can't see that at the minute. But basically, I mean, these are about $7, $8, $9, and it looks like they're basically they're rule sets that you can just print off and play solo. So the game engine's intended for solo play from the get-go. It avoids complex rules that are easy to lose track of, keeps the number of exceptions and special cases to a minimum, and there's no need to flip back and forth between movement and the solo mechanics any longer. So basically what it's saying is that you need, typically you need 3 character figures, maybe 10 to 15 military figures, and various alien critters, and the PDF is laid out in single column for the benefit of screen reading, especially in light of the popularity of iPads and tablets. So has anybody else played these kind of things? It's not something I've even knew existed until Robbie mentioned it today. So something else to get your solo wargaming juices flowing. So that is that is Nordic Weasel Games. I'll pop a link down in the description of the video later on as well. Nurglen saying to play The Walking Dead at Atlanta, just like at the side of a road somewhere, or just inside the forest, or on a farmland somewhere. Mark is saying to Jamie, do you fancy expanding down here in Berkshire? Adam says he lives in the city centre, so there's also chavs or charvers for you and knobheads. I think you get charvers and knobheads in most pubs, to be fair, mate. Nurglen said, that's cheating. Neil Allison says, it's the future. Yep, you're not wrong. Todd is saying 8 zombies finished thus far. Well done, mate. Nice to see somebody's getting a productive evening in. Mick saying first Martian on Mars. Yeah. It's going to be a few years, I think, before you'll manage to get out there, I think. Nurglen saying he likes your style, Neil. And Ghost is saying years ago he was obsessed with finding PDF games like RPG demo rules for homebrewed games. Always download them, but 5 parsecs is new to me. Yeah, it's definitely not something I've heard of before. It's just like I say, when Robbie mentioned it today, thought I'd include it in here. If anybody has heard from it, then feel free to drop it in the comments. If you haven't heard about it, it's probably worth checking out. Those kind of prices are not too bad. It's worth taking a punt on. And I did a very quick search on YouTube tonight before I came online. And there is a few videos on there as well. So if you search for 5 parsecs, there's a few videos on there. People playing them if you want to have a look at, see how the rules go as well. DM13 is saying the rules look interesting, getting extra value from those minis. Yeah, if you've got miniatures from other games, I mean, it sounds like kind of Space Marines, kind of any kind of what could you use? Like kind of Imperial Guard, maybe some bits of Tyranids or something like that, or even using your walkers as your zombies from Walking Dead or from Zombicide. Anything like that would probably do as kind of like your aliens. Nurglen's saying to Todd, good job on the zombies. How many have you got to do, Todd? Is 8 just tip of the iceberg, or have you got sort of hundreds to do? We're just looking at the time there. We're at 10:15 now. It's been raging the chat tonight. Loads of stuff going on. Loads of good ideas tonight. Carl saying his gaming group have totally stopped playing the big games. It's either skirmish games or board game hybrids. We get 2 hours on a Tuesday every 2 weeks, so we have to play games we can finish. Carl, I think that more and more games are going like that. I used to go to a gaming group on a Sunday many years ago, where the guys would rock up about kind of 11 o'clock, 11:30, and they'd still be playing games at like 6:30, 7. And when I say still playing games, they'd still be playing the same game, like sort of for like 5-6 hours. And I don't think my concentration spans that long, to be honest. So for me, skirmish games, that was exactly the reason why I got into Malifaux back in the day. It's the reason why I got into War Machine. It's the reason why I picked up Walking Dead. And it's the reason why I play them kind of games. You'll not really see a lot of kind of big 2,000 point Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40k stuff on this channel. I do cover it because you can't ignore the biggest games company in the world, really, if you've got a YouTube channel. But it's not something I play very often, I'll be honest. Adam saying he's got the old Ghostbusters RPG game on a scanned PDF, so I've got extra missions when I finally get the board game. Nice one, mate. Ghost saying the guy who always giggles on Beasts of War, forgot his name. I know exactly who you mean. Do you mean the kind of like the skinny English guy? Because the rest of them are all Irish, aren't they, really? There's a guy with an English accent, really kind of young guy. He has an idea where he wants to do a sci-fi army that he can use in multiple war games and just have a collection of books, but one army. That would be good. If you could just kind of, because I mean, let's be honest, a lot of us get into games because the miniatures look good. The rules are almost a nice to have at some point, I think. Carl saying this is why I mainly play solo, as the only way I can play games like Bolt Action or X-Wing is my group are also anti-sci-fi and very anti-Games Workshop. Anti-sci-fi I don't really understand. I guess if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But for an entire group to be anti-sci-fi, I'm quite surprised that. Anti-Games Workshop you hear a bit less of these days, I suppose. But there's a lot of people have been burned by Games Workshop over the years, I would say. Jamie saying he's currently painting a 2,000 point Ideneth Deepkin army. I saw that. Let's see if I can bring up Jamie's Deepkin. Actually, because because it was looking really, really nice. I don't know whether I'll be able to bring it up while we're chatting here, but I'll try and do two things at once. I can't even get Instagram to load, so no, it's not going to happen. Sorry, Jamie. Where are we now? DM13 saying he's sure he saw something about GW making a Space Marine Adventures game that supported 1 to 5 players, sort of Space Hulk style dungeon crawler. I think I've seen something about that as well, mate. Adam says on 8th edition 40k shop launch, our shop opened for 48 hours, so one game lasted 9 hours. Couldn't imagine playing the same game for 9 hours. Because either you're playing really slow, and that's why it's lasting 9 hours, or it's a 9-hour game, and I just don't think I could concentrate for that long. It's hard enough having a day at work. Jamie saying, AOS show, you know you want to. I mentioned this the other day, the amount of people that have said I should do an AOS show because there's hardly anything on internet or on YouTube about AOS. I do like the game, I have to admit, I do really like AOS. I don't play it often enough because I struggle to get my armies painted up. Maybe what I should do is, maybe when I'm a little bit better off, maybe when I'm making a little bit of money on YouTube, I might get commission painted an army, and I might get into that kind of stuff then. Todd saying he's got 8 more to do. The zombies are from Zombicide, the VIP expansion. Oh, in that case, you've done 8. You're cracking through them, mate. You'll be done them in no time. Nerglin is saying you totally can ignore the biggest wargaming company in the world if you rock it old school and only want crusty old boys watching your content. Such is my fate. It's a weird one. I think if you cover the Games Workshop stuff, you get an instant audience, which is never a bad thing when you're making videos and that kind of stuff. I like their miniatures. I'll be honest. I think they make some absolutely fantastic miniatures. I just think at the minute they are absolutely just going nuts with the amount of stuff they're releasing. I don't know how you can possibly try and keep up with everything if that's what you want to do. I mean, all of the new stuff for AOS looks fantastic. But it'll be interesting to see if everything is just this massive day one launch, just everything gets dumped, or whether they're going to drip feed it a little bit. Jamie says, DM13, it's Crypt of the Necrons, I think. Space Crusade redo. Or Redux, I should say. That's maybe the one I've heard about, yeah. Todd is saying, if anyone's interested, post them on the Facebook group. Please do, Todd. I would love to see them, mate. Ghost says, yes, that Space Marine game looks brilliant. It's Necron Labyrinth. It's got the Marines from the Japan exclusive blind boxes. Carl is saying his club costs £2.50, but the place we go charges £10 for rent. So anything we make over goes into the club armies and terrain. That's a good thing to do, to have like a kind of a club army. And Adam says one side had around 20 tanks. Wow, bloody hell. That would take a while, and wouldn't it? Definitely would. Especially trying to learn the new rules of the game at the same time as well. So we're coming up at 25 past. We'll probably call it a night about 1:30 there, I think. We've had some really, really good chatting tonight. Really enjoyed tonight's chat. What I would just want to say just very quickly is, so as I mentioned before, just to recap, so next Monday's show is the Walking Dead special. So we're going to talk about the Walking Dead. If you've been painting any Walking Dead stuff and you want me to feature it in next week's show, if you've been building any tables, any terrain, you've been painting up the miniatures, get them across onto the Facebook group page, and I'll put some stuff together, and we'll go through them, and we'll kind of showcase some of the community pictures next week. I've also got that, let me just send it across again. I've got that Mantic Games show exclusive, the Dale Prison Advisor booster set as a prize next week on the live stream. So still to be determined how I'm going to decide how to give it away. But don't forget, come in next week, and somebody who is watching the live stream next week will win that booster set. What else we got? Yeah, just another quick one. Just wanted to say thank you to my Patreons. So for those that don't know, I do have a Patreon page now, which is helping me to purchase kind of new games to review, and more things to sort of bring you content. So that means it helps me get down to see other games manufacturers. So I've just had a couple of emails backwards and forwards today with Riverhorse as well about going down to see them in the near future. So the funding from Patreon allows me to kind of to take the time and to go down and see those guys. So if anybody would like to support me, there'll be a link down in the video description. So that's really, really sort of really appreciated. Thank you very much for that. Anybody interested in, there's some t-shirts for sale as well. Again, there should be a link down in the description. I know that Neil had his t-shirt on at the weekend while he was down at Warhammer Fest. That was absolutely amazing. I was blown away to kind of think somebody was wearing one of my t-shirts at a massive big convention like Warhammer Fest. And they seem to be selling quite well at the moment. So, yep, feel free to head across there and check them out. And also, we've got UK Games Expo coming up as well. That's coming up in a couple of weeks' time. If anybody's going to the UK Games Expo, don't forget to get across the Facebook group. Let me know. We'll try and grab a drink together or something, grab a coffee, or even test out a board game together. That would be quite fun. I'm planning on being there for at least two or 3 days, I think. I'll be going down on the Thursday. There's a press night on the Thursday that I've been invited to. So I'll be going down on the Thursday, but I should be there at least Friday, Saturday anyway. So, how we're doing? 25 past. I think we'll probably we'll probably call that now. I'll just quickly go through the chat, and we've got Nurglen is saying, who just said Space Crusade, sign me up. Todd is saying it's hard to keep up with GW. They've had splendid minis, if not a little pricey in the States. That's the problem. They're quite expensive here. They're a bit more expensive in the States. They're a fortune if you live in Australia. Ghost is saying, I'll be here next week. I'm on the same shift. Being good to chat. Really good to have you in, Ghost. Really glad you found us tonight. DM13 saying, cheers for tonight, Andy. Everyone in the chat had a good evening. Got bugger all housework done, but really enjoyed the night. Well, I'm glad it's been a good distraction for you, mate. Nurglen saying, remember to hit the like button before you shoot off, guys. That's much appreciated. Just helps other people to find my videos and find the channel. Jamie saying it's been a good chat tonight. Mick saying, yep, he agrees as well. Neil's having a whoop whoop. Thanks for picking up one of those t-shirts, Neil. Thank you for your Patreon pledges as well, and thanks for wearing your t-shirt the weekend. I was proper made up when I saw that picture. Adam says he thought River Horse were in Spain. No, River Horse are actually down in Nottingham. They're in the same building as Warlord, so they're not too far away. Mick says great, not Grest. Grest's fine as well. I know what you mean. Todd saying great show. Good night all. Steve says great evening as always. I'll break up the t-shirt for Legionary Show. Bit of product placement. Don't forget to get a picture made. Put one in the Facebook group as well. It's always good to see them out and about. Christian saying great show. Andy, night all. And AGT Fritz says great show. I went to UK Games Expo in 2012, but have since moved on from the UK. I miss it. It was a great convention. Yeah, it's grown and grown every year, Fritz, and the new ones now at the Birmingham NEC are fantastic. It's really starting to feel kind of a bit more like a Gen Con. The old ones, I think, were a bit more like a local convention, a little local war game show. But the new ones now are starting to feel like a really kind of a really good quality convention. So again, thanks everyone for tonight. Sure, I'll have some more videos out this week as well. But if I don't speak to you before, I'll see you next week in the live stream, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Bye now.